And take one as a wrap.
That was very easy.
Yeah, actually, the event does get recorded
here.
here, so this is all still live.
Oh,
And we can't actually end this one, because if we end it, then we can't start it back up. So we can just leave this play in the background, take a break, and come back.
We'll have bloopers then. Awesome.
Yeah. Exciting. All right, cool. Oh man, I didn't even look at the time on the meetup. I don't think we've ever done this at a time other than 9 for a long while. So, all right. Well, I'll see you back here at like 9:30 or maybe a few minutes before then, and we'll kick it off again.
Sounds good.
And we can leave the event and it'll be all right. Like we can come back and it won't totally.
Yeah, you can leave and come back.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Mixed Reality Speaker Series. It's great to have everyone back. Very excited to be doing another one of these. And today we've actually got something really cool. So the Mixed Reality Toolkit 3 Public Preview launched a while back now. And there was even a hackathon in between here and there. So there's been a couple of people using it and giving it a try. And today we have pretty much the whole Mixed Reality Toolkit team with us to answer questions. Now, I don't know if you've been to the Mixed Reality Speaker Series terribly often, but I actually, just a little bit about me, since I've been hosting these for a while, I actually moved up to Redmond in January or something like that to join the middleware team. So I'm very happy to say that these are now my colleagues and I work with these people every day. So I'm very, very happy in particular to be introducing these people today. So what we're going to be doing in this particular event is just we're going to kick off with just a round of introductions. We'll have each person on the team introduce themselves, tell you a little bit about themselves and what they're most excited about for Mixed Reality Toolkit 3. And in the meantime, I would love for you guys to just kind of think about what questions that you have for them. This is a perfect opportunity. It's not very often that you get access to all of these amazing people. So think of some questions, plop them in the chat, and once we've done through our introductions here, then we will go through and answer all of the questions that we can. So I'm going to kick this off kind of based on order. So we're actually going to start here with David. So let me get you on camera here. So take it away, David. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm David. I've been at Microsoft for quite some time and worked on some really cool projects, MRTK being one of the coolest. I'm super excited about the upcoming accessibility features that'll be added to MRTK3. I love the closer partnership that we have with Unity on this version, and I'm just all around excited to get to work, like Nick says, with this great group of folks.
And we will toss it over to Finn now.
Hey folks, I'm Finn. I have been working with these lovely gentlemen for about 2 years now, if you count when I was an intern. But yeah, I have been doing a lot of work on MRTK3, especially the UI systems and hand tracking. I know personally I'm super excited for MRTK3 because, I mean, first of all, the interaction system is completely rewritten, and the best part is that it's not even our code, so it's a very nice standardized protocol that a bunch of other people also agree on. So it's not just us over in a corner saying, oh, this is our interaction system. But yep, the UI systems are so much better, and it's just really a joy to work with. Like I've enjoyed building my own little tools with it, and yeah, it's been a great time.
All right, over to Grace.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Grace, and I'm the product manager for MRTK. I've been on the team for about coming up on 3 months, so I'm relatively new to this team. And the thing I'm most excited about is hearing all your feedback for our public preview so we know what features to prioritize and things to improve on as we work towards our next milestone.
Great. All right, Hoff, your turn.
Welcome, everybody. I'm Hoff. My real name's Michael, but everybody knows me as Hoff in these circles. I have been involved in this for about 8 years. I was on the original HoloLens team back in the early days, working on the NASA Curiosity mission planning, the Trimble and the Autodesk and Fusion early partnership spotlights. Then ran off and started building apps for enterprise for about 5 years, and then came back to the mothership and not looking back at all, looking forward, and really excited about MRTK3 and our shift towards trying to both adopt more of what Unity is providing, plus also moving more towards enterprise and production capabilities. And so the thing I'm most excited about is seeing what you build with this and giving us feedback. That's what I'm most excited about. So I can't wait to see the next steps from all of you.
All right, Curtis.
Hey, I'm Curtis Evely. Yeah, I've been on the team since the sort of early Holographic Academy, Holo Toolkit days, through MRTK2 through now. I'd say sort of, yeah, I mean, what I'm most excited about in MRTK3, I mean, there's a couple things, right? Like, one is just like, it feels like such a natural evolution of the toolkit. Even from like Holo Toolkit, the things we learned in Holo Toolkit, the things we learned in MRTK2, and just like all the great people on the team, this was just such a great opportunity to come together and use all the things we've learned over the last, whatever, 6 years, and build something great here. And I'm also very excited about our sort of increased OpenXR adoption and just what that means for cross-platform development in the VR space, where there's however many headsets out there, and it just makes it so much easier to develop your app and reach as many people as possible. So yeah, super excited to be here. Looking forward to your questions.
All right, and Yoon.
Hi everyone, my name is Yoon Park. I'm a UX designer working on everything related to developers and creators. So I've been kind of focusing on the MRTK's UX building blocks for a while. It's been kind of several years. I also started working with Holo Toolkit, the first version of MRTK. It has been evolved a lot, and I still remember the early days when I first met HoloLens and when I started wanting to build something for HoloLens. It was so painful, and it's amazingly difficult to just build a simple button. If you look at the default Unity button, 2D button. It has been kind of really like long journey to bring all this kind of volumetric UI to this MRTK and the public. And for MRTK3, I'm really excited with definitely new design language that we introduced. And also, as Ben mentioned, the new UI system, especially the volumetric UI integrated with the Unity canvas. It really gives the designers and developers so much freedom, empowered for kind of being able to build a flexible and dynamic UI. I personally am so excited and wanted to really use it on my personal project as well. And so many exciting ideas about sample apps and examples. Can't wait to see what you can build with it. Yep.
All right. So that's the collection of people that we have with us here today. I guess I can say a little bit about what I'm excited about here. So I'm super excited about the modularity of the Mixed Reality Toolkit 3. This was something that I'm kind of a byte peeper. Like I look at the binary size and I go, oh, how much bigger is this? And so I really appreciate the fact that I can now like scrape out pieces that I don't need and just opt into the bits that I do want. So that's super exciting for me. So we don't have any questions yet, but now's the time to put them in. So feel free, type something up. And I guess we'll kick off with I'll toss the team a little bit of a softball. What can we expect? So we did the public preview here recently. What can we expect in terms of like coming out of the MRTK3 in the upcoming development cycle long before we get to publish? Anybody want to take that one?
I can talk about what I've been working on recently.
All right, that sounds good to me.
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest things that people might notice when they boot up MRTK3 for the first time, they're like, wow, my hands look really ugly. They're just a bunch of cubes. Where are my nice, pretty, hands? Because I'm, maybe I'm deploying to Quest and I'm used to some nice, hand models that look all fancy and shiny. So we haven't had those yet in MRTK3. We had a version of them back in MRTK2, but they weren't present in MRTK3 yet, but I've been working on that for last week or so, and they're looking really nice. We're also going to be bringing in some really excellent controller model support that's going to be streamed in right from the platform. So no more, having to manually be like, oh, I'm going to bring in an Oculus controller model into this and all that nonsense. So it all just comes straight through OpenXR, which is pretty nice. Curtis can talk more about the OpenXR side, but I think hands and controller visualizations, if they've not been up to snuff so far, in MRTK3. That's because we know and we're working on it. So.
Anybody else have something they want to share for this one?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and jump in. At Developer Days, we had some discussions about extension services and where they went and were they coming back. We've migrated from having our own like system service components and then the ability to extend. What we've done is we've centered around Unity's XR subsystem approach, where they manage registration, they manage the metadata for it. And so what I've been working on right now is the ability to quickly generate a template for yourself that you can just fill in and create your own subsystem to either contribute back to MRTK, which would be amazing, or to use within your own projects. So that gets me pretty excited.
Cool.
I've got
Yeah.
one more to add. We've already gotten some feedback on the data binding, and I'm actually excited about implementing some of the feedback that we've already received. One of which is implementing iNotify property change for those of you who are longstanding .NET users. That's a really important for existing code bases. So that's one of many feedback items that I'm excited about adding fairly soon. The feedback is from a while ago, and I feel bad that I haven't gotten around to it yet, but my plate is opening up a little, and I'm very excited about being able to contribute more to the data binding based on feedback.
I can take
Cool.
a stab at these two questions from Aiden in the Q&A if you'd like.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So the first question, Aiden, thanks for calling this out. For one, yes, Snapdragon Spaces does work with the XR Interaction Toolkit, which is the same underlying XR interaction system that we use. So yes, there is a very nice synergy there where you should be able to use all of our MRTK goodness out of the box on that system. We don't have anything more publicly to share at this time regarding anything more with Snapdragon Spaces, but we look forward to seeing what you guys build. The second question about 2D pointing devices. I'm so glad that you asked this question. If you take a look at our GitHub repo, there are actually 2 PRs involving mouse support. The first one, actually, I believe just merged recently, where that's not for a pointing device while you're using the VR headset. That's more for improving our workflow for mouse support while you're on a 2D flat device, such as like a desktop PC or like a web browser instance. But in terms of the HoloLens 2 shell mouse, there's another PR that was contributed by another person at Microsoft that is basically HoloLens 2 shell parity, like spatial 3D mouse support. So whenever you plug in like a Bluetooth mouse or whatever to your HoloLens or your Quest, you should have effectively HoloLens parity mouse support. So we're actively working on it. I'm glad you asked.
Yeah, and I think something that I would love to hear a little bit more about, since the Snapdragon Spaces does have kind of a big OpenXR element here. Curtis, do you think you could explain a little bit about what the relationship is with OpenXR extensions and some of this stuff?
Certainly, yeah. So I obviously work on the MRTK. One of the other things I work on is the Mixed Reality OpenXR plugin, which is something that we've got a good team here. Some members of our OpenXR runtime team and myself work on our implementation and integration of OpenXR. And so that's been a good sort of partnership project with Unity, where they've taken the core of OpenXR and taken advantage of the implemented the rendering and head tracking and that sort of thing. Been open enough that's given us like the opportunity to implement the OpenXR extensions that add cool new features that sort of our devices or other devices in the industry do. So if you sort of yeah, a couple of things that it adds are the hand tracking joints, which we've talked about a little bit and are a fairly core feature of MRTK3. It also adds things like hand mesh visualization and control and render model visualization. Just real quick before I ramble too far, Nick, am I answering the actual question you asked me? I kind of think I've gone off on a tangent here, but
yeah, it's just like I remember looking at Snapdragon Spaces and just noticing that basically it's just a collection of wrappers around OpenXR extensions, which was kind of exciting because like this is a really nice compatible way of doing things. Like there's nothing special or secret happening here. It's just OpenXR extensions.
Yep.
Yeah. I will say I'm not personally super familiar with sort of Snapdragon Spaces and what they're doing there, but I will say that yeah, that sounds similar to what we're trying to do in MRTK3 and what we're trying to sort of expose in Unity and make work well in Unity with the plugin. And I think I would generally think that that's a good way for us and the industry to sort of work together going forward. Yeah, I can
I think one of the biggest takeaways for me with the whole Snapdragon Spaces story is that like OpenXR is this amazing cross-platform, cross-vendor like XR input sort of abstraction, right? But then XRI is turning into this amazing cross-vendor interaction abstraction, right? Because we've never had a standardized like protocol for describing how people interact with objects. Like we just haven't had that before, right? Like obviously MRTK has had our own opinion, right, of what that kind of protocol looks like, and other frameworks have had their opinions, but now there's kind of like this really flexible, low-level description of how interactions happen, and so we're already seeing this where the vanilla built-in XR interaction toolkit primitives work with our MRTK like interactables, say, and vice versa. But that's also true for custom XRI components that people build themselves, say for spaces or whatnot. There'll be that same level of interop because we all kind of speak the same protocol. So I think when you take that kind of standardized protocol and then you combine it with OpenXR's power to standardize like input, that's awesome. So that's really exciting.
Okay, so we have another question here that we can talk to. Aiden asks, what about NReal and MRTK? Does anybody here have something they want to chip in here? I might have a word or two if nobody else does. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, go ahead, Finn.
I don't have anything concrete to chip in, but I just said I think NReal is really cool. I don't personally have a device, and I don't know the extent of their OpenXR support. But hypothetically, if they support OpenXR, we support them.
Yeah,
Nick,
so
take it away.
I think I was paying attention to NReal because I've seen them at AWE a long while ago, and I was like, this is nice enough. Like I would enjoy working with this. But I think one of the problems is that they've been a very slow adopter of OpenXR. I did see recently that they added OpenXR to their roadmap. I don't remember exactly when it is, but this is something that if they do support OpenXR, then it basically just starts working, which is really lovely. So this is mostly on them at this point, as far as whether or not it will work out with MRTK. So that's always really interesting. But like now that the industry is very much standardized around OpenXR, things are going to get a lot easier for this interoperability sort of situation.
I would like to say in that our cross-platform support is strong, and that any device manufacturer that is trying to work well with MRTK, we end up having conversations with them, and we actually have regular touch bases with several already. So to the extent that that we get any signal at all that the NReal is interested in working with MRTK, we're all in. We want to make sure that MRTK is genuinely cross-platform.
Okay, I see a cool question here from Jeff from Toby. I know Finn, you're typing on there, so I'll let you take this one. I'm sure you're going to be excited about this.
I'm so excited about this. Jeff, so good to hear from you, but I'm very, very excited to say that like eye tracking is essentially one of our #1 input methods for MRTK3. It is just about as core to MRTK3 as hand tracking. It is absolutely a first-class citizen. We use gaze for almost everything in MRTK3. We use it most visibly for this new gaze pinch interaction method. So basically, before we had your typical, you reach out and you grab the object and can move it around like direct, right? Then we had our, long range interaction where you could, point your hand right at the object and pinch it and move it around. But in MRTK3, we're kind of introducing a new interaction system where you can basically couple your gaze for targeting and your hand for manipulation. So instead of having to aim, for example, a hand ray at an object in order to manipulate it, you essentially target with your eyes and then can just pinch anywhere. And it essentially feels like you're reaching out and grabbing the object, but you don't have to actually aim anything. Our like kind of fuzzy gaze system just kind of infers what you're looking at, and it works really, really well, and it's super, super fun to use. And eye tracking makes it all happen. So eye tracking is absolutely incredibly key to what we're doing. Also, all of our UI is built to respond to eye tracking, so it will it'll contextually kind of grow and glow and expand and like show focus effects depending on, if you're just looking at it passively, if you're looking at it but then also have your hand up. We have different kind of focus effects for that. So yeah, all in all, eye tracking is #1 importance to us. And thank you, Toby, for all the hard work you guys do.
Yeah, if you use that example scene, if you try it, it almost feels like using the Force, like
Yes.
The Star Wars.
Yes.
If you try the HoloLens 2 and hand ray, when you use Force, you don't actually see the beam, but now it feels like it's just look at the object and using your pinch gesture and move it. And also there's a kind of variable kind of varying amount of the selection method. So I supported MRTK3, so you can actually visually see the amount of the selectedness using your pinch gesture. So it really kind of feels like using the Force. It's really fun.
I'd also like to add that being at Microsoft, we're backed by a pretty sizable design and user research team. And one of the things that we make sure is that by the time it's in MRTK, it has been incredibly well vetted. And that we just want to make sure anything we put out there is that quality and is intuitive and is meeting needs. So you may sometimes feel like, man, the pace is slow. Why aren't you bringing out more eye gaze features? And that's part of it. Is we just want to make sure that whatever we put out there has durability, is robust, is intuitive, and we're proud to release it. And I just am thankful that we have so much support from other teams at Microsoft, and that is obviously to your benefit as well.
All right, and I'm just going to make a quick aside here. If you haven't found the Q&A button, it's somewhere along the top here. It looks like a couple of chat bubbles. So in case that was hiding for you, just you can find it there. We do have another question here from Nando Cordiero. I'm a sound designer looking for games looking into doing XR projects. Does MRTK3 have native spatial audio capabilities and/or functionality with audio middleware?
I can take that. MRTK3, like MRTK2 and HoloToolkit before it, use the spatializer capabilities that are exposed by Unity. You register the spatializer plugin you wish to use. We are, as a company, Microsoft has a new spatializer that works across Windows, Android, so your HoloLens device, your Windows PC, and your Quest will get spatialized audio. In the next preview release, there will be the audio effects package features from MRTK2 ported to MRTK3. And to spatialize them, you just enable your spatializer, check a box, set your blend to full 3D, and you're good to go. The new spatializer does have some new requirements that will be detailed in our documentation to go alongside. But pick your favorite spatializer for your platform and you're good to go.
Dave, sorry if I missed what you said, but did you mention that the new one is hardware accelerated on HoloLens, or is it not hardware accelerated on HoloLens?
The new one, I believe, has gone away from the hardware acceleration towards cross-platform. I would need to confirm with the spatializer team for that.
Interesting. Okay.
All right. We don't have any questions currently, unless I missed a few. But feel free to ask a few more.
Don't be
Still got plenty
shy.
of time here. Yeah.
Don't be shy,
chip in.
please.
Well, one thing I'd like to bring up is to how much we are all in on OpenXR and how that's going to make reaching new devices much easier than MRTK2. You no longer have to modify the toolkit to add support for your controllers and your devices. OpenXR does that for us. And so the more you move towards OpenXR selections in Unity, so like using that plugin, moving towards Unity 2021, the more your app is going to be usable by devices that if the, like what it looks like 3-4 dozen people here on this call, if we were to decide to make a company and make a new device, if we based it around OpenXR, it would work with all applications shipped on MRTK3 that were built using the OpenXR plugin. That's way exciting.
Yeah.
And it's also worth adding that we are actively involved in the OpenXR Standards Committee, and we are constantly making sure that they're meeting our current and future needs. So, you know, thankfully we have a voice there, and we can make sure that we're always able to, you know, stand up all the things that we aspire to stand up all the way down to the hardware level by being actively involved, and then that also benefits every other device manufacturer out there, which is kind of a nice way to spread the goodwill, spread the wealth, so that everybody benefits.
Yeah, and this industry is already so secretive, right? Which is kind of a bummer in my opinion. But I think what's also nice is that we don't even need to know that a device exists for us to be able to work with it, because chances are there's dozens of devices out there that none of us have any idea exists, and you can still use MRTK to prototype and develop your own device even if we don't know it exists, or you don't want to tell us it exists, because it'll still work and you don't even have to fork our code or modify it. It'll just work, which is excellent.
And while there are no questions, I'll also add that similarly with Unity, our relationship with Unity continues to get better. They value our opinion enough to the point where we literally have direct access to the engineers who are implementing some of their core features. And we work very closely with them with the OpenXR stack. And on that end of the equation too, we just feel like we're in such a unique position to make sure that the entire stack is meeting your needs, not just any one piece of the stack.
All right, we do have a couple of questions now that came in, so I'll take a few of these here. So Roni asks, is there a way to scroll a scroll rect with the hand without the use of a scroll bar? And I guess Finn, you might have something to say there.
Yes, I'm actively working on it. It has been, I have a branch in Git that has been active for the last month or so. So that is, yeah.
Work in progress.
Work in progress. It feels awesome, by the way. It's, in my opinion, it's way nicer than the scrolling we've had before. It's certainly way nicer than the scrolling that we've had in like the HoloLens 2 shell. I don't know if you've ever tried to scroll the pins panel with your finger in the HoloLens 2 shell, but it's a little bit janky. But I think we have a better solution for it in MRTK3, and it feels really nice. And it also is not a special scroll system. It's just the same Unity scroll view that we all know and love. It just happens to now work with your finger, which is super fun. So yeah.
All right, and we have another one here as well from Fabian at Logitech. Gaze tracking is amazing, but I always have issues with text entry, especially if I have to type 2 consecutive same letters. Is there a plan to use gaze or improve the text entry? Voice improved so much the last few years, but it's not always suitable. So some interesting question. I don't know who might have an answer here.
So our internal interaction prototyping team has been doing a lot of work with this, actually, improving text entry in a variety of ways. Some of it including, I mean, I can't say everything, but some of it does include eye tracking related work. Some of it does include hand tracking improvements. I think their overall idea is that we already have so much information about what the user is doing in terms of, you know, voice and hands and gaze, So if we can combine all of them together in a more kind of multimodal text entry system, we might get better results. I don't know what the timeline is on that, but I know for a fact that they are building their experiments in MRTK3 because we use MRTK3 now for our internal interaction prototyping system. So whenever they come up with something that they feel is worth your time, then I'm sure it'll be an easy process for them to publish it and share it with you folks.
Okay, we also have another question here from Jeff on a follow-up to the eye tracking question. How about analytics? Do you use eye tracking for any UX analysis or eye gaze analytics in any ways? For example, could a developer understand how someone interacts with a scene or object using any of the built-in MRTK features? And I think Yoon does mention a few things here below. Did you want to say anything out loud for that?
Oh yeah, I'm not sure if you have a kind of practical example of using eye tracking for actual kind of analytics purpose, but yeah, in MRTK V2 we had kind of one example scene that shows how to kind of visualize the user's eye gaze and attention as a kind of heat map visual example. And I remember there's a 3D version of it as well. So definitely there's a lot of possibility and potential for using it as a analytics and kind of gaining the idea about the user's attention and in 3D scenes. So yeah, and I shared a link to the example scene page just in case. Yeah.
And don't be shy about submitting feature requests. I mean, we look for signal on what comes in from the community. So yeah, we triage the incoming discussions and features and bugs every single week, and it definitely informs our roadmap. So if you have ideas of what analytics would be useful to you and why, that will go a long way towards getting it scheduled on our roadmap. So please submit feature requests.
And I'll just mention too, just like because eye tracking is kind of one of those kind of sensitive data points. If you are thinking about doing analytics with eye tracking, just be very careful. Like that's data that you don't want to get out, and I would only use it if you really need it. And we actually don't do a whole lot of analytics for MRTK, just to make sure that we're respecting people's development and stuff like that. So like we don't do a whole lot on our end either.
Yeah, we kept telemetry out of our toolkit for obvious reasons. But the nice thing about our new interaction system is that it would be very easy for you to build your own telemetry system. But like Nick said, tread carefully.
Yeah,
people may not like that so much.
Yeah. Yeah, good advice. I would add additional color to that in that we have a lot of understanding through Microsoft what some of these issues are, which we can obviously share and pass along to you. I certainly get the need for analytics even for your own research and development, which I think is the sweet spot. That said, obviously, any kind of opt-in that meets all the legal requirements isn't out of the question, but I do agree with the advice that you're hearing that tread carefully in those areas. We have been ourselves interested in analytics on how you use our stuff, and we've been treading very carefully in that respect as well, just for all the same reasons, respecting your own privacy. And so we take all of that very seriously. We think at kind of that holistic business scale on what we do, and that is reflected in the choices we make.
Another question that came in, VR noob, working through learn.unity.com pathway. Any plans to do an MRTK learn.unity? And is there another canonical intro course that you recommend? And thank you, Jesse, for all the links down there. There's some good resources in that. I think it might be nice. I know we interacted with Zappy's Playground. Does anybody have anything they want to say about that? Because that's kind of a new resource. It's pretty cool. Nobody. Okay, all right. Well, there's some cool stuff out there. Oh,
I guess One thing
Grace?
is Zappy's Playground is more of a like level 200 MRTK tutorial. So I definitely don't recommend starting with Zappy's Playground. I'd recommend starting with some of the Learn modules that we have on the Mixed Reality Doc site. And then once you go through the Learn modules, then try out Zappy's Playground.
Obviously, you can try it.
Definitely.
I'd like to toot Unity's horn with that was a partnership with Unity, and it was an incredibly successful partnership. They went the extra mile to make sure it was a really, really polished example of how to use MRTK3. So I definitely do encourage you to take a look at it. It's a pretty sweet demo of how what you can build with MRTK3.
Yeah, I remember April was also working on something. I don't know if that's out yet or not. Is that out yet?
The team is trying to finalize and publish it soon. So yeah, that's a kind of in-edited tutorial. So basically, yeah, based on the Unity's in-edited tutorial capability, the team built the MRTK3 tutorial. So kind of very basic components like introducing object manipulator, bounding box, and buttons, those kinds. But it's a very kind of interactive and very integrated in the Unity editor itself. So it's a kind of really nice resource and learning tool method for kind of beginners who are new to MRTK.
Yeah, this is one that I've seen little snippets of it, and I'm excited for when that does come out because it looks really, really nice. So we'll be sure to put that somewhere notable, like the tech community blog or something like that, when that does come out. But that should be pretty nice resource to get started with. But plenty of good things there to get started with, so I hope that helps. Okay, so we have another question down here from Anonymous. Can you talk about support for mobile devices, iOS, Android, AR Foundation? And I think, Finn, you did type a little here. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, so we already use AR Foundation for a variety of things. That's the primary way that a lot of the scene information is exposed through Unity. So things like the like the spatial mesh and scene understanding, like finding floors and walls and things. That all comes through AR Foundation these days, which is quite nice because that's a cross-platform way of doing these kinds of scene understanding tasks. Currently we don't do testing on phones right now, just mostly because we don't have really a lot of resources or time, because we're not currently focusing on that. But our intent by using AR Foundation and all these abstractions is that it will work out of the box. Feel free to try it yourself. Let us know if you do end up trying it and you find out something interesting about how much it does work or doesn't work. Please let us know. Post some issues to our GitHub. We would be very, very, very interested in hearing how your experience goes because we certainly haven't done a whole lot of testing on our end. But that's our intent. That's our goal.
And for just a sneak peek of future potential directions, we are looking at what it would mean to systemize ways in which you develop wants to play everywhere from between 2D devices, 3D devices. Some things are handled for us. Canvas does a really good job of screen space versus world space, but there's room for us to explore and potentially systemize some of the harder challenges of making it the absolute most intuitive experience, even when it's being deployed to 2D and 3D devices. So to keep a lookout for that. It's not going to unfold within weeks. It'll be more like quarters or so, because it's a hard problem to solve. But it is an area that we're exploring because we know that practically everybody deploys to multiple different device platforms. And so it is on our radar, and we're actually very excited about it. It's just a hard problem to solve. So if you have any ideas, or if you've actually solved it in certain ways and you'd love to see it handled at our level, please reach out and talk to us. We love talking to you. So but know that we're here for you. Like anybody on this call or listens to it later, like please reach out to us. We're here for you. I'll go into the Holo Developers Slack channel, wherever you reach us. We want to hear from you.
All right, and we do have a question down here from Sahil. Hi, we have our own enterprise rendering engine. Good on you. That's a lot of work. OpenGL, DirectX 11, DirectX 12, Metal, and Vulkan. Oh man, that's a lot of work. We have port for HoloLens 2, UWP, and OpenXR, and now we are looking at making UX UI support better. I was looking at StereoKit for it, but is there a path for me to use MRTK without Unity or Unreal, as well as many things that you do is pretty good. And Unreal Engine, as well as many things you guys do, is pretty good. So a little fuzzy on that last sentence there, but I kind of get the gist here. I would mention, with regards to StereoKit, the current version, one of the major features that I'm working on with StereoKit is a big UI refactor. The target is to get somewhere closer to the mixed reality design language that the MRTK3 does use. So that's something to watch out for in the future with respect to StereoKit, but I'll let somebody else speak to MRTK without Unity, if anybody wants to tackle that.
I know for a fact that a lot of us on the team are not exactly like, we're not wedded to Unity in any way. Unfortunately, the way that the technology works, the MRTK3 itself is kind of wedded to Unity, which is a bummer. But in terms of in terms of our hopes and dreams and motivations, I know for a fact that we all hope and dream that we could build a totally engine-agnostic toolkit that would work beyond Unity, across all kinds of different rendering stacks, across web, across this, like, that's what we hope. Right now, it's just a Unity toolkit, but I know for a fact that we hope and dream for it to be more.
And I'd like to add that Dave has been spearheading an initiative we call One MRTK, and we're constantly exploring what that intersection can be between all the different engines and all the different platforms. Yep. And it's a hard problem to solve. I mean, there are different languages involved, different operating systems. It gets hard really fast. You can only push so much down to the C++ or C layer and still have something that's useful, which is one approach. But the baby steps are, we're starting to get MRDL up and running on multiple different platforms. So the design language is becoming consistent. We're trying to normalize on the shader side. We're tackling it every direction we can. Again, we're all open to ideas. If you have ideas of how something could be potentially more normalized or more deployable across more platforms, we're all ears. We do want that. We want to include, web technologies. We have the whole Babylon JS initiative here as well, and we're trying to just figure out what that looks like. It's a hard problem to solve. So to the extent that it is possible, we're definitely interested.
Yeah, another thing that I'll add, like the wonderful thing about this group right here is that this is also the middleware group as well. So it's not just MRTK for Unity. It also includes MRTK for Unreal, StereoKit. We're talking a little bit with Babylon as well. So there's still some cross communication over here, and there's definitely some room for growth and kind of collaborating on some of these elements. So you might see more of that in the future. Exciting stuff. Okay, another question from Anonymous.
I do want to add one more thing too, and Unreal, MRTK Unreal is constantly trying to keep up with MRTK Unity. The problem is it is a very small team of one at the moment. And one thing that may not be obvious to all of you is that we're a really small team. A lot of people think we're a lot bigger than we are because we're just passionate about what we do, and because of that, and there's so much talent on my team. I feel like the luckiest man on the planet every single day. But we're a really tiny team. In fact, more than half the team is here on this call, and we're just we can only do so much so fast, and yet I am impressed every day with the amount that this team is able to deliver to you. But that said, we do want to address some of these capabilities and challenges that you mentioned. It's just a matter of how fast can we do it, and we're constantly looking to demonstrate the value we deliver so that we can add more resources. And that's just part of being in a larger organization is that you have to show that you're delivering value, and we certainly feel like we are. And to the extent that you build really cool stuff out of this and tell us about it, that actually helps.
All right, so Anonymous does ask about documentation. Any plans for documentation on getting started tutorials about the new MRTK Unity XR Toolkit input system? To beginners in Unity, it's a huge jump between the old MRTK configuration profiles and the new MRTK XR Toolkit input system. So thank you for more links there, Jesse. So I think documentation is something that's definitely going to be improving. Like this is still kind of MRTK preview that we're in. So there's definitely some work to be done there. Max isn't here, but I would totally love to toss this to him. He's really good with documentation. He's extremely passionate about it. And so he knows a lot about what's going on here. But does anybody else want to chime in about documentation stuff?
All of these links are a very good resource. I feel like people often overlook the XRI docs themselves because people see MRTK3 and they see a new input system and they're like, oh, clearly this is the MRTK input system. Clearly this is the MRTK interaction system. Where are the MRTK docs about this? But in reality, it's not our input system. It's not our interaction system. It's Unity's. So the XR interaction toolkit documentation is astonishingly good. It is very, very, very good. It's honestly some of the best Unity docs I have seen from Unity, and I would highly recommend taking a trip over there and reading through it. They have a great architecture page as well that describes all of their kind of philosophical stuff. Honestly, I think they might actually have a leg up over us in terms of their conceptual docs right now, but as Nick said, our docs are going to get better all the time. But definitely take a look at our Learn modules, like Jesse showed. You can take a look at Zappies for a complete example, but again, that's a little bit complex if you're just looking for getting started. I think the conceptual docs on our MRTK3 site are pretty good, the ones that Yoon posted. We offer like a little mapping between some of the concepts you might be familiar with from V2 and their rough equivalents in MRTK3. As well as some of our more philosophical write-ups about, how we leverage the overall like interactable system. So there's lots of resources there. If there's a big glaring hole somewhere, please file an issue. Feel free to file docs issues on our main GitHub repo. We would be more than happy to take a look and fill any holes or just point you to where you should go looking.
And I'd like to jump in on the old MRTK configuration profiles. That was something that had a very steep learning curve. And once people understood and have like crested that hill, they got comfortable with it. They seemed to like it. However, it was not very Unity-like. So in MRTK3, we're doing as much as we can to put you in control of everything. The only profiles we have are like basic low-level configuration for subsystems, and not all of those have configurations. We're not going to just suddenly spawn an object in your scene based on some profile setting. All the visualizations are in your control in MRTK3. So that's going to actually simplify things for folks who are new to MRTK, and we do owe those who've been with us on the ride for longer good documentation for where did this go from MRTK v2? How do I find it? How do I get a floor plane on the screen? That type of thing.
Yeah, and I'll say, yeah, I think you linked to we have sort of a conceptual doc around like MRTK v2 concepts, MRTK3 concepts, and generally we get the question a lot of like how can I, if I know MRTK2, what do I do in MRTK3? Some questions around like the feasibility of porting things. I'll say I'm helping with some internal investigations on sort of that feasibility, and out of that, this list of like V2 to V3 concepts just continues to grow as we realize like, oh yeah, this is something that people use, and here's let's think about how we would approach that in MRTK3. So that's absolutely, I think, an evolving and growing document, and I think we will start to have some more concrete information on that as time goes on.
Speaking of porting, we've actually heard some relatively, also surprisingly positive feedback from the community about their experiences porting things. We went into this public preview knowing that our porting and migration sort of strategy is a little bit lacking. We don't have any like wizards or automated tools to help people yet, nor do we have really a step-by-step guide. But we've actually heard from folks that porting is surprisingly not that bad. So we're obviously going to be improving our migration strategy in the future with both a mix of some automated tooling as well as more kind of explicit how-to guides. But yeah, if you're in that spot of migration, do not be too worried. And Sahil, your question is very intriguing. I would like to know more about it. I'm not entirely sure what sort of hooks you mean. If you mean drawing it yourself in terms of drawing our MRTK controls, I don't know if that's going to be possible because all of our MRTK3 UI is all purely Unity stuff. We don't have some kind of external UI engine that we're like rendering in Unity. It's all just purely Unity stuff. So I don't know how much you're going to be able to plug in sort of an external rendering system for that. But if you're talking more about like like hooks for shaders and buffers, makes me think like, render to texture, like, arbitrary, bit buffers that you can draw into so we can render as a slate. Like I know that's a thing that other folks internally here at Microsoft have been working on. So that's definitely a thing. But in terms of going the other way around and having your rendering engine render our content, I don't know how much that is going to be able to happen.
Yeah, so regarding some of that, like I know I've looked at the MRTK shaders in the past as kind of like reference since I was kind of replicating some of those shaders in StereoKit. They're kind of they're big, they're complicated, and one of the problems with shaders is that they're often very engine specific. You might know that already, but porting those shaders would probably be a bit of a challenge, especially if you're trying to get all of that functionality. With respect to timeline for the next version of StereoKit with the UI refactor, I think it'll probably be about 2 months before this next version. That's kind of my target for that. We'll see where exactly that lands, but yeah. Feel free to follow up with another question. Anonymous asks, what would the process for migrating existing projects using MRTK2 to 3 be like? And I think you touched on this a little bit already. So if anybody had anything else they wanted to mention about that specifically.
Well, Jesse posted a link to Yost's weblog where one of the things that struck me about what he talked about was once you figure out what needs to be replaced, you're actually writing a lot less code in MRTK2 than you were in MRTK3 than you were in MRTK2. So it's not as hard as we originally envisioned. The problem, though, is where to put various pieces. And that's the learning that I know we're currently undergoing and why it may end up being more towards the here's how you do it than fully automated tools to migrate. But we're still learning.
And Curtis, have you talked about the gleam in your eye of what that's all going to look like?
I can. I mean, yeah, I think there's still a lot in flux and sort of I think phase 1 is absolutely going to be a continuation of more of the conceptual docs where it's like, okay, if you use this prefab in MRTK2, you can use this prefab and configure it this way in MRTK3. There kind of becomes like, right, there's probably more than 2, but I always think of this kind of 2 main sort of pieces of the porting, right? There's the prefabs themselves, like replacing the prefabs, sort of rebuilding your UI with the new prefabs, but there's also all of the input and interaction interfaces in MRTK2 that you might have built custom scripts and custom mono behaviors that are wired to respond to the MRTK2 events. And so that will, replacing the prefabs and rewiring things in the inspector, there may be a world where we have some nice tooling that helps you kind of just view in the I don't know. I do have some grand vision that may or may not come to fruition, right? Of like maybe some helper windows in Unity that say, you know, here's the prefab in V2, here's the corresponding prefab in V3, and like make sure that, you know, these settings are aligned and these events are aligned and that sort of thing, right? But the porting of the scripts themselves, I think will almost always sort of have to be a bit more of a you know, manual process, but is certainly something that we can say, hey, if you listened for these events from this interface in MRTK2, you know, inherit from this base class, or listen to these events in MRTK3. So I think there's a lot of conceptual overlap between the two, with just, you know, slight differences in the way you might register for an event, or the name of the event that you're trying to listen to. That I think is where the vast majority of kind of our where we will be able to add clarity. So yeah, that's yeah, a little bit more on that, just kind of what I'm thinking about, but is certainly something that I need to, you know, continue digging into and see what we can do.
Okay, and we have a question here from Simon. Is there a roadmap for future preview or otherwise releases, and is it public? So Jesse put in a link there as well, related to that. Does anybody want us to talk about roadmap?
Yeah, I can jump in a little bit here. Beyond our MRTK3 public preview that we are currently in right now, we don't really have a publicized roadmap, but the thing that our team is working towards right now is our MRTK3 GA, which is our general availability. And we don't have a set date for that right now, but we are targeting sometime around the fall to winter timeframe. And so anything you guys want us to prioritize on our roadmap from now until then, definitely make sure you submit feature requests, feedback, just anything, so we know what you guys want, and we'll work towards that as we prepare for our GA.
Yeah, and sorry, Alex here asks if there's a recorded version of this. So one thing I would point out is that this session is actually, like, once it's over, you can actually come back to it using the same link and like scroll back and forth through it. But eventually you'll probably have a copy of this on web later on once it gets captioned. And then back to another question from Simon. StereoKit is awesome. Thank you, thank you. I saw plans for a WebXR WebGL version. Any further updates or announcements on that? So that's actually been kind of something that I've been working on a bunch recently. So StereoKit actually does work in a browser, the simulator at least already, if you are using it from a native side. I recently got it working in a browser from the C# side as far as like initialization goes. There's still some more work here to go. The Blazor WebAssembly stuff is new and interesting and provides some fun pitfalls. So that's something that will continue evolving, but no like release just yet for that. Just keep tabs on the GitHub or the Discord, and you'll see that happen. Cool. Any other questions? I think we're actually coming up on time here, so this is probably about the end. So if nothing filters in here quickly, then we'll probably just wrap this up. So anybody have any last words that they want to say before we take off?
The last words.
I'd just say thanks for joining us, and we look forward to hearing from you more in future events like this and on GitHub.
Yeah, honestly, just tell your friends that we want to hear as much from you guys as possible. Like if you do any work on MRTK or you know anybody that does, just encourage everybody to just come say hi. Like just drop in the little discussions tab of GitHub and the Slack and just start filing issues. Like we are here for you. We love hearing from you. Our job doesn't really mean anything if we don't get to hear from the people that actually build it. So you know.
And we can help amplify anything you're doing. We love to repost, to reshare, and tell the world what people are building with MRTK. So and StereoKit. And so please let us know what you're doing, because we can help you build awareness of what you're doing. I repost stuff on LinkedIn all the time. I have a pretty strong following on LinkedIn, and anytime I see anything, I'm making sure the world knows about it.
Yep.
And that's true for everybody on the team. Yeah,
Feel-
thank you so much for everybody.
And feel free to reach out on socials, and like Hoff said, LinkedIn, Twitter. I know that Nick does a lot of his Stereo Kit outreach on Twitter. You can post, we can probably post our handles in the announcements here in the Q&A if you want. But I know for a fact that if anybody ever even mentions MRTK3 remotely on Twitter, I always go and I retweet it and I like it and I say thank you to anybody who reaches out. So it's always super fun to hear from folks. Yeah.
And I'm the same way on LinkedIn. Yeah. So reach out to me on LinkedIn.
Yeah, and I'm pretty much just repeating what other people have said already. But yeah, thanks for joining us and for showing interest in MRTK3. It's always fun, on the Holo developer Slack or on the GitHub repo, seeing familiar names pop up that were involved back in Holo Toolkit or have just been along this journey with us, as well as seeing brand new names pop up, right? Seeing new people get into this space and new people get interested in just AR, VR, MR. Well, it's awesome. So yeah, thanks for joining us.
I also encourage you to follow Yoon. Yoon posts amazing stuff all the time. And every time I see a Yoon post come through, I'm like, this is going to be amazing. So definitely encourage you to follow Yoon.
All right, so
All right, thank you, everybody.
that's about it for everybody today. Thank you all so much for coming and listening and asking questions. I think this is super wonderful, and I hope that you're as excited about the MRTK3 preview stuff as we all are. So we'll call it a day and enjoy the rest of yours.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.